The year is 2140. A beautiful woman named Rada is waking up. Her bed declines her request for 5 extra minutes and dumps her on the floor. Yes, you heard that right. Rada lives in Two Hills, an ultra-high-tech colony. And apart from the alarm clock, everything seems to be perfect there. The smart houses are ready to 3D print her every wish. Food is free for everyone. In fact, there is no money at all. People have different levels of access to products and services according to their social score. Social points are awarded or deducted automatically because the integrated AI systems have eyes everywhere. By now, you must have noticed something else about this society that is a little peculiar. They don't have any men. How on earth did that happen? Rada is about to explain that because, very conveniently for us, she is a history teacher. Back in 2030, North Korea developed a virus to wipe out all male Americans. The attack was successful, but it also got out of control and affected the entire planet. Very few men survived. They were banished to primitive slums as soon as the women realized that a female-led world was a much better place. Nowadays, men are referred to as the primates, and colonies, like Two Hills, take strict precautions to avoid contact with them. But Rada is an open-minded teacher, and she thinks it's important to learn from actual experiences. So she decides to take her group on a visit to the slums. That's when we meet 2 of the so-called primates. Jera is a kind-hearted young man who has never been with a woman. The exact opposite of him is a man named Baron, the self-appointed leader of that slum. He is proud of the handful of women he was able to gather for them, who seem to be quite happy as outcasts. At least here their beds don't talk back to them. When Rada arrived with the girls, the little field trip doesn't go as she expected. The way she talks about that place makes it evident that she is not that open-minded after all. She is conducting the event pretty much like a visit to the zoo, and she makes no effort to hide it from the primates. They get enraged at her attitude, and the situation escalates quickly. Jera interferes to help Rada and one of her students, but he is so excited to be near a woman that he suddenly kisses her. In the end, Rada and the girls make it back to their shuttle after a huge scare. Now Jera is in trouble with Baron and the other guys from the slum, so he decides to sneak into another shuttle at the first opportunity. That's when he meets a man who is not considered a primate. On the contrary, he lives in Two Hills, surrounded by the most beautiful women he can think of. His name is Yuli, and he is a seed keeper. In other words, he's part of a select group of male humans who are used as a reproduction tool. To Jera, that sounds like a dream job. Yuli is also excited to meet a primate for the first time. Jera offers him booze, not realizing that he had never tried anything like that before. The consequences are disastrous, and Yuli falls off the shuttle. Trying to cover up that growing mess, Jera dresses up like a seed keeper and impersonates Yuli when they arrive at the colony. All the women are incredibly nice to him, and he can hardly believe his luck. Taken to the reproduction center, he is disappointed to find out that the natural process is forbidden. It's illegal even to think about it. There is a specific machine for obtaining the necessary seeds. Thinking about Rada, Jera does his best to enjoy the ride. Once it's over, he goes to the seed keeper's living quarters, and things begin to look much better. Life here is completely different from the slums. A team of pretty girls is there to ensure his well-being, and he has everything he needs to be healthy. The other seed keepers realize that Jera is an imposter, but they decide not to narc on him. The truth is these boys are treated exactly like spoiled teenagers. The women are happy to provide them with all that comfort, but they never take them seriously or respect their opinion at all. Meanwhile, Rada is in trouble with the matriarchs because a student reported that risky field trip. She is ready to defend her pedagogical choices, but that kiss from Jera makes her tense. Her best friend, a woman named Aya, reassures her that everything will be fine and no out will find out. However, as soon as the trial starts, Aya comes forward and says Rada kissed a primate. Besides a drastic social score drop, Reda is sentenced to community service as punishment. 20 social points are awarded to Aya for proper snitching. With a best friend like that, who needs an enemy, right? And what about Yuli? After a nasty hangover, he finds himself in Baron's slum. He makes the wise decision to avoid mentioning his past employment. Even so, his well-kept appearance makes the primates jealous because their few women are all over him. Bullied by Baron, he is forced to have a haircut and wear more slum-looking clothes. The newly found freedom is so exciting that Yuli doesn't even mind all that. Jera is going through the opposite experience. Tired of the dull amenities of his new life, he becomes a bad influence on his peers. They are inspired by Jera's individuality and the way he keeps defying the norm. His legs are not shaved, for example. He comes up with the best mischievous ideas and always finds a way out of punishment when they get caught. We can't say the same for Reda, as Jera has the opportunity to see for himself. Her community service includes several hours at the reproduction center. They recognize each other immediately, and she gives him half an hour to run away before she calls the authorities. At the slums, Baron has had enough of the snobbish playboy and orders a hit on Yuli. Some of his men take him on a fake errand to make it easier to dispose of him. But then, the group gets jumped by a gang named the Squirrels, yet another group of dogmatic nutjobs. These ones hate everyone who drinks alcohol, but they didn't expect to meet anyone as well-fed and physically fit as Yuli. He fights them off easily and saves the primates who were about to get rid of him. Recognizing Yuli's valor, they decide to disobey Baron's orders. Speaking of the brute, you'd never guess where he is now. The president of Two Hills is a woman named Vera. Just like so many male leaders of the distant past, she is under the impression that the rules don't apply to her. Baron is her secret lover. When he tells her about the new guy in the slum, she suspects it could be one of her precious seed keepers. And what's even more concerning is that none of them has been reported missing. Vera decides to check the new pictures against the older ones. She immediately spots the intruder. The alarm is heard all over the city, but Jera has nowhere to go and Reda's head start doesn't help him at all. After running right into the invisible wall of the city dome, which no one bothered to tell him about, he goes back into the center and finds Reda. He reminds her that she was in a similar situation back in the slum, and he risked his life to save her. In fact, this is the only reason why he's still on the run. She then decides to help him escape. When Baron gets back home, the primates have a huge surprise for him. Not only is Yuli still alive, but he is also stirring things up. He has explained to the primates that Baron is a tyrant and their lives could be much better under a different leader. Now they are demanding free elections. As violence is not an option, Baron resorts to political strategy. He talks to his best friend, Cresa, and makes him enter the elections as well. Baron is certain that dividing the opposition will be enough to ensure his own victory. Of course, that's not what really happens. Cresa wins by a landslide, while Baron gets only his own vote. The manhunt is still going on at Two Hills. Reda takes Jera to her grandma, who has always been a bit of a rebel. She hides them both in the closet, together with her illegal cat. We learn that keeping a pet of any kind is against the law too. Unfortunately, that's exactly how they get caught. Officer Katya is about to leave when a loud meow is heard. Now Grandma has no choice but to go full rebel. She smacks the officer and gets her old motorcycle. The secret to escape the dome is to cross the wall at a high speed. Grandma tells Reda that she'll be seen as a traitor and her life will be miserable. Her best shot now is to run away with Jera. So she does that. After successfully crossing the city limits like Grandma instructed them, they light up a fire and rest. It's not long before other primates notice them. They're both captured and taken to Baron. At Two Hills, Vera is frustrated to learn that Reda got away. Her grandma is facing treason, but that's not enough. She decides to take it out on Reda's mom as well. Yelena is the Secretary of Culture, but Vera is now delighted to inform that she is fired. Baron is also frustrated that his power was taken away right when Rada was captured. The political instability at the slum is so intense that she soon realizes that there's no danger at all. She's happy to see Yuli, and they come up with a plan to return to the colony. That's when she begins to feel suddenly dizzy. With all those scary primates around her, it is Yuli who spikes her drink and then tries to take advantage of her. She kicks him right in the seed maker. Then she goes outside and sits next to Jera. They begin to talk about the crazy culture clash when Yelena arrives with security guards. She puts them both in a shuttle back to the city. Jera is hit by a dart and instantly falls unconscious. Yelena explains that Vera has offered her job back and a full pardon for Rada, but she wants something in return, of course. New elections are coming up, and the best way for her to wrap up this mess is with Jera's public execution. By now, Rada is too involved with that clumsy primate to let that happen. She talks to the Seed Keeps, and they agree to help her save their hero. They invade the courtroom as a group and demand Jera's immediate release, or they'll interrupt the seed supply. That is the one thing Vera cannot replace, so she is forced to give in. Her only condition is that he either leaves or someone vouches for him. Rada volunteers and swears on the apple, which is a sacred fruit for them. Regretting her recent selfishness, Yelena decides to support her and also takes a bite. Jera is given a smart house of his own and 300 social points to get started. Yelena and Rada explain the system, warning him that every little thing can be deducted, as they have both vouched for him. They will also be punished if his score ever hits 0. He seems to understand the system itself, but he can't tell when something is an infraction. Points are deducted for not finishing his breakfast, swearing, and other stuff like that. A few days later, Vera is surprised by Yelena's decision to run for president against her. She has the support of the Seed Keepers, and that doesn't look good for Vera. Then, she has an expected visitor. It's Yuli, begging her to take him back. He has arrived at the conclusion that freedom is not as fun as he thought. Seizing the opportunity, Vera makes him record a video accusing Jera of terrorizing him at the slum. Everyone is shocked to hear that, and the instant polls show Yelena took a huge hit over her association with Jera. With the accusations, Jera's social score goes to 0, and he is once again sentenced to death. But then he suddenly receives a point out of the blue and finds out people can donate their social points to whoever they want. All the girls and Seed Keepers who sympathize with Jera begin to donate as well. Finally realizing how popular he is, Vera decides to back off. Her next move is much more dramatic. Contacting Baron, she arranges an attack on 2 hills. The primates arrive during a public function about motherhood, trashing the entire place. Vera's plan is to scare the women so much that they'll never trust another primate, including Jera. That is sure to reflect on Yelena's campaign, not to mention how inexperienced she is to defend the colony. When Baron contacts her for the payment, she laughs in his face before disconnecting. All of a sudden, he is surrounded by the presidential guard. Officer Katya has orders to take him down, as he has become a liability for Vera. He quickly grabs Yelena and runs straight to the lab. There, she convinces him to come clean about Vera. He can get his revenge while the city learns the truth about the president. Baron likes the idea, but his priority at the moment is survival. They leave the lab with a large case full of seeds. Katya would never dare to put that at risk. She has no choice but to let them go for now. Meanwhile, Rada's grandma has decided to join the primates and rebel against 2 hills. Her group attacks Vera, but Yuli is there to save her. Feeling more confident, she contacts Katya and tells them to hunt down the fugitives even if the seeds are lost. Yelena and Baron are not even that far when the guards catch up with them. Rada and Jera show up in a car to help them escape, but Baron's inability to forgive Jera gets in the way, and they all end up getting captured. After a swift trial, they are sentenced to clean the Pacific Ocean. Jera manages to escape and sneaks into the reproduction center. He talks to Letzi, one of the seed keepers who was devastated to learn that so many of his seeds were destroyed. He tells him about Vera's involvement, and he agrees to help him take her down. Jera takes Letzi to his grandpa at the slum. The old man is looking at pictures of his old flame, and Jera is surprised to recognize Rada's grandma. He helps the boys trace the prisoners to the edge of the dome. There's no one there when they arrive, but they get to witness something odd. The squirrels are coming to the colony, and to everyone's surprise, Officer Katya is waiting to let them in. Using his knowledge about the gang, Jera pretends to be drunk. The squirrels take the bait and capture him. He ends up in an old-fashioned house with a friend of Vera's. She makes him wear the same humiliating costume as some of the squirrels. Then, they all go to a wild party at Vera's. On their way there, Jera manages to find Rada and gives her a recording device. They come up with a plan to expose her questionable recreation activities. However, Yuli is also at the party and he recognizes Jera's tattoo. They get into a fight that ends up revealing Rada under a table. The presidential guard shows up in no time, but before they can detain the intruder, Vera finds out that Rada had managed to send pictures of her to Aya. The residents of Two Hills are looking at them now, shocked at their president's conduct. Grandpa is finally reunited with the love of his life, while Baron timidly approaches Elena. Jera remains a virgin. And this is the end. This was a recap of the 2022 series, The No Man's Zone by Start, starring Pelagia Nedzarova and Nikita Kologravi. Which character did you like best? And how would you like to live in a world where the opposite gender doesn't exist? Let us know in the comments below with #CinemaRecap. Until next time.